This was a fucking mess. I am saying this because, and I have this policy, right? If it's the first game in a new series, if it's the second, third, I can be more forgiving of things finding its footing. This is chapter fucking 5, right? I don't know if the developers of this game think it's just their thing. We're the game of chase sequences. We are the chase sequence game. In a chase sequence, as I've said before in these games, as soon as you die, it loses all of its value. And it had that. I'm not even saying it didn't have that, but it's like, oh my God, enough!
This clip made a lot of people very mad. On the 20th of February, oh my God! On February 20th, 2026, the director of Iron Lung, Markiplier, went on stream to play through the newly released 5th chapter of Poppy Playtime. The series has been a staple of mascot horror for years by this point. Markiplier was usually quite positive when he'd cover the previous chapters of this franchise, but something was different this time.
Because I don't think that I am going to play the 6th. I truly just don't want to, so I'm not going to. Man, I just do not have it in me to continue slogging through this.
A question coming from anyone who saw this clip was, what the hell happened? To make sense of that, we need to go back to the very beginning, to Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. FNAF. I swear this is important for the story. The reason the game ended up the way it did was because its creator, Scott, come on, you guys know his last name, received a lot of criticism on his previous game, Chipper & Sons Lumber Company, for the characters reaching the uncanny valley. A certain reviewer said they resembled creepy animatronics or mascot suits you'd find at a place like Chucky Cheese or the UK equivalent. We don't have one. Scott turned the bug with Chipper & Sons into a feature and accidentally made one of the most successful and famous video games ever. With the astronomical success of the FNAF franchise, it spawned its own separate horror genre. Media focused on being scary but marketable would now all be placed under the umbrella of mascot horror. And oh my God, is it a mixed bag. You got FNAF, which I consider the gold standard for mascot horror. But even those games started to get very messy with future releases. There's Bendy. I haven't played this one, sorry. Ben, and the rest. The most successful game in the genre post-FNAF is a itty-bitty, tiny little game that you probably haven't even heard of called Poppy Playtime. It barely made a splash on the internet and almost immediately faded into obscurity. Joking aside, this game did really well. The demo was inescapable for the first year and a bit after it released. People were theorizing where the game could go from that cliffhanger ending. A bunch of YouTubers were making videos on their playthroughs of the game. Trust me, that's a big deal. Only the most current and popular thing gets put on one of those.
Come on now, little girl. You look like you could use some extra credit, huh?
During those first few chapters, Poppy Playtime was the darling of the mascot horror franchise. But then, Chapter 5 released. 4 had been a bit divisive, sure, but 5 seemed to be the breaking point for a lot of people. And I wanted to figure out why.
I think this is it for me. Poppy Playtime, thank you for your time. Thank you for my time.
My name is Ty, or definitely Blood Oranges, and in today's episode of Torturing Myself for the Amusement of My Fans, I find out what went wrong with Poppy Playtime. Poppy Playtime was created and developed by the studio Mob Games. Funny bit of trivia here, but the CEO of the company also owns the Enchanted Mob YouTube channel.
I'm sure this won't be important later.
What?
Nothing.
How'd you get into my house? Originally starting as a Kickstarter before that exploded, Poppy Playtime's demo would release on Steam in October 2021. Attempting to sway away from the standard walking simulator that indie horror had become known for at the time, everyone involved in the project wanted to make an experience with gameplay that doesn't feel quite so run-of-the-mill while staying exciting and terrifying and unique. The game implements a lot of puzzles to shake up the gameplay, which is something I haven't seen many other horror games do. You play as a former employee of Playtime Co., a company that was marred in controversy for, a few incidents that make Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria look like the safest place on the planet in comparison. Returning to a now run-down facility for some reason, things start to go very, 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 very wrong as you're relentlessly pursued by the franchise mascot, Huggy Wuggy. The demo isn't very long, but after playing it, I would say it does a good job at keeping me on my toes. I didn't really get scared by anything, but it does what a good demo should, make me want to play more. And clearly, I wasn't the only one who thought so. Every big Let's Player on the planet was covering this game. Markiplier, DanTDM, Jacksepticeye, Queso. Just like FNAF, Poppy Playtime would become an internet juggernaut overnight. It was genuinely inescapable. This game felt like it was made in a lab to be successful, mainly because it has everything someone with ADHD would latch onto. A pre-2000s aesthetic, marketable yet scary mascots, some third thing. The game was so big it got coverage by the New York Times for the insane amounts of knockoff merch that was made for the game. The demo also hooks the hell out of people with a cliffhanger ending. Nobody wants you to let this Poppy toy out of her case, but once you do, the audience can only wonder what she's gonna do with her newfound freedom. How much terror is she gonna cause now? What's the deal with Huggy Wuggy? Is it sentient? Can I buy one of those plushies? I'm a big fan of the grab pack mechanic as well. I wish there was a platform game entirely based around them. I spent the first 5 minutes just playing around with boxes instead of actually engaging with the game. It was great. The devs didn't instantly jump on the success of the demo and ended up waiting nearly a year before dropping the next chapter of the game. The release of Chapter 2 brought in a brand new player peak for Poppy Playtime, but it also dragged in a few major issues behind them that would plague the series for the foreseeable future. It's undeniable that YouTubers playing video games and showing them to their massive audience is good for a video game. That's what allowed games like Undertale to reach so many people. There is your Ty brings up Undertale moment for this video. I imagine a chapter with this title has you thinking that I hate content creators daring to show a game to their audiences. But I actually think it's super cool, especially streaming. At least the streamer needs to be around for that. Whoa, do you see that? Nah, I'm lying. There's nothing there. I was just checking who's paying attention. Look at this nondescript game for a second. I wonder how you make one of those. $1,000 Python course. That's a true story, by the way. Except I think it was a Roblox game dev course. Don't ask. I thought that was ridiculous, so I teamed up with the humble legends who were kind enough to work with a horrible video essayist like me. This video is sponsored by boot.dev, I guess. This is the first time that I have ever enjoyed coding. A friend and I did a Python course and I was actually able to follow along and use it to make this to-do list. My friend, who actually paid attention in school, mainly used the course as a refresher, so I went up to his place and asked if I could get a personal statement. I actually have him right here. Those aren't the lines we practice, man.
Boot.dev made it easy to relearn Python.
Come on,
I'm so glad Ty let me join him on this journey. I loved the challenge mode as it helped me refresh my knowledge and kept me up to date on everything Python.
With the world going so digital, circus. Coding is pretty lucrative. Back-end developers earn nearly 200 grand a year. Screw a job though, I can code a Plex server if I learn Linux through boot.dev. If you ever need more practice, you can use the training grounds feature to grind out whatever issue you're struggling with. It's a really good system. Seriously, these guys are great and a lot more affordable than almost any other course I've seen, especially if you use my code, Bored Oranges, or click on the link at the top of the description or pinned comment. You can get a whole 25% off an annual plan. Now, there's nothing stopping you from making the next indie game that content farms obsess over. Anyway, let's get back to the video. My issue is more that games will now start catering towards getting the best reactions from content creators without a care for anything else going on. So instead of trying to make a good game that people will enjoy, the games are made so the streamer will create a good moment to promote their game even more. Like, Undertale is a great game. You can play that entirely alone and have a great time. Your experience is so personalized, whereas Poppy Playtime heavily banks on scripted sequences, faux gameplay, and hype moments in aura to drag a person through a playthrough. Phone gameplay especially annoys me because it's essentially a QuickTime event that is really trying to convince you it isn't one. If you replace the very minimal amount of keys you do have to press during one of these sequences with QuickTime events, nothing would change, which is not the case with something as open as Undertale, or even other horror games like Baldi's Basics or FNAF. Something would be lost to all of these other games if you replace their gameplay, whereas the same just isn't true with Poppy Playtime. It also doesn't help that this game loves to spam set pieces. I don't have an issue with this in concept. I like City Escape, but SA2 has a whole level before the set piece, which allows me to take a million different routes to reach that ending. Once that set piece is over, I move on to another level that will test me in different ways. After a chase scene in Poppy Playtime, I run away from one puzzle room into another one and repeat. It became very boring after I figured out this game's formula, but I'm sure this wouldn't be an issue when you're watching a supercut or clips of a content creator reacting to these moments. It feels like the devs were intentionally trying to bait people into basically soy-jacking at the screen at a glorified cutscene, instead of getting those reactions organically through gameplay. And I have no better example than this moment in Chapter 2.
I know when your birthday is. June 28th.
June 20th. So, I'll come out and say it. My birthday is not June 23rd. It's July 28th. I am expecting presents, so please jot that down in your calendars. So, whose birthday is this? Is this potential foreshadowing of the character we'll see later? My PC's set date of birth? Nah, it's just Markiplier's. My question is, why would anyone make a game like this? Unless you watch Markiplier play this game, the dialogue makes absolutely zero sense. Anyone else who plays this game is just ignored for the most blatant appeal to inorganically get a reaction out of a specific big content creator. Worst part is, it doesn't even work.
Okay, I heard that there was a musical memory here. Some kind of musically memorable stuff. Is this glass?
I know when your birthday is. June 28th.
All right, well, I'm assuming that you just Googled that because that's pretty public information.
Imagine a version of this in something like, I don't know, DDLC. If you're trying to promote your game to people, why would you design it as if only one person is playing it? This reeks of such insane desperations from the devs to generate hype, not from people playing their game, but from people watching Markiplier play the game instead. In Chapter 3, Jacksepticeye makes an appearance, and this caused me to audibly groan. It's something like Dispatch. A bunch of YouTubers appearing as voices for characters caught me off guard for a bit, but they did a good job at making their characters believable. Punch Up is his own character, who happens to be voiced by a famous YouTuber guy. Poppy Playtime has him appear on screen for an extended period of time, longer than any other tape in the entire game, and It's hard to disconnect from that because his face is just on the screen. It's Jacksepticeye playing Jacksepticeye in Poppy Playtime. Same issue I have with the FNAF movies, to be honest, where YouTubers just pop up just so people can say, oh my god, it's the YouTuber I watch.
It's just a theory.
Do you guys get it? It's MatPat from The Game Theory. The game feels afraid to tell a coherent story. It's always baiting something. The treatment of the first 3 villains in the game is something that needs to be studied on how not to do a swerve. The demo has you being chased by Huggy Wuggy before you open Poppy's case, which the game makes very obvious is a bad thing. Cut to black. I said this was a good place to end the game already. With how things were conveyed, you could actually say Huggy Wuggy was trying to stop the player from unleashing the toy version of the devil in Poppy. Or hell, they're both evil or something. The first 2 chapters almost had a good story they were weaving with Poppy as the main villain. Chapter 2 begins with Poppy being very nice to the player, so obviously this means she was going to betray us. She was the child of the owner of Playtime Co., Elliot Ludwig. After her death, he managed to trap her soul in a toy to revive her. I would imagine someone like that would want to leave the cold, abandoned, dusty factory. And it seems the ending was going down that route. The antagonist for Chapter 2 is trying to put Poppy back in her case, further adding onto the idea that we're helping the wrong person. It kind of just makes sense that the character who the entire franchise is named after would be an antagonist, you know, especially with everything that's been set up so far, right? Well, the ending of Chapter 2 begs to differ.
Time to figure out exactly what I would do when free. We'll set things right. Terrible things have happened, but I know that whatever I need you to do, you're capable. We will. What if...
Right at the end, the most obvious villain to ever villain is usurped by someone. The reason I played this entire clip is because Poppy Playtime attempts to just gaslight the player after this point. Suddenly, Poppy is actually a genuinely sweet and caring person who is also voiced by someone different in every chapter, who wants to help the others who are trapped in toy society in the lower levels of the factory. How in the what? The nicest way to say this is I feel like Poppy Playtime was not written in advance. The mean and honest way to say that is Poppy Playtime is a story that was not written in advance, and the villains make that painfully obvious. The first 2 chapters almost had a good story they were weaving with Poppy as the main villain, but I guess someone changed their mind or the game was worried about circus baby comparisons, which is funny because of a surprise tool that we will be using later. Everything until the ending makes sense. Then Chapter 3 happens. This kid called Ollie tells you that Poppy needs the player, which inherently makes me think, oh, this person's an evil toy. Because Poppy trapped us and it caused us to crash. It turns out I was on the money, because this person wasn't just any evil toy, they are the evil toy. The prototype. Who? The prototype is the most evilest thing to ever evil, or that's what the tapes said about him. They also killed the previous main villain of Chapter 2, Mummy Longlegs. That's basically it up until this point. Everyone hypes the prototype up, and the main villain of Chapter 3... Wait, hold on, his name's Mummy Longlegs? Don't you... Catnap is a devout follower of the prototype. Who is Catnap? Well, he is part of the Smiling Critters group, a gang of 8 toys who caused Playtime Co. to gain some negative press over the cast causing violent nightmares. This is great and all, but what about the person who has actually been an active force in the story? What about the person who the game is named after? What's going on with her after she betrayed the player at the end of the game? Well, it turns out that Poppy wasn't actually being sinister. You see, she can't let us leave because we can help her kill the other bad toys. Apparently, the player has history with these people. After 5 chapters, this story has barely been expanded upon, but That's good to know, I guess. So Poppy is working against the prototype, who we are now being told is the biggest of the big bads in the series. The one who actually sent out Catnap to deal with us. Catnap is defeated and the prototype kills him as we head down to an even lower part of the facility. Another bloody swerve happens. The pink Huggy Wuggy, I refuse to commit that thing's name to memory, is attacked, and before we can see anything, cut to black credits. The last 3 chapters have all done the exact same ending. Brush past main villain, swerve, cut to black, credits. And I get why the games do this. You want to build up hype for your sequel, but the same ending 3 times. Are we serious? I wouldn't hate it if these chapters felt like continuations of the story, but every chapter is just its own thing at this point. Chapter 3 does not feel like a proper continuation of Chapter 2. In fact, I'd say that this is the chapter where the game jumped the shark. Things were down to earth up until this point, and then it's revealed that actually there's a toy secret society with an on-site orphanage in a factory. Think about what I just said. It doesn't just stop there, as we find out that dozens of kids were made into toys, and some of them took part in the Hour of Joy, where they started attacking the humans in the factory. When things closed down, the toys started eating each other. The reason this game felt so unbelievable compared to something like FNAF, for the most part, is its scale. FNAF feels like a massive story, but for those first 7 games, it was all about William Afton, his kids, the original 6 or 7... God fucking damn it. The game was about William Afton, his kids, and the other children that he killed in the first place. The number of them does not matter. It was pretty grounded, focusing on this pizzeria throughout different points in time. As a thriving business people wanted to be at, or the rundown shell of itself. People making an escape room based on those original child murders makes sense. FNAF 4 takes place in some other kid's head, or maybe it doesn't, I'm still not sure. But the point is, I can believe in the world of FNAF. Poppy Playtime's story and world matter when it's convenient and nothing else. Instead of FNAF's approach of almost telling the story in reverse, Poppy Playtime just adds new stuff regardless of anything that came before. It's why chapters 2 and 3 are so drastically different from each other. It's why the very small-scale story randomly exploded into something so bloated and messy. I describe the story of Poppy Playtime as FNAF but with no depth. And my main reason is how both games depict a lot of their violence. FNAF uses a childlike art style to convey how these moments looked like to a child. They're stuck in that moment forever. It's actually impressive how dark FNAF really is without needing to have an insane amount of gore on screen all the time. Poppy Playtime's approach is the most basic one, and that's fine. I just won't be able to take them seriously as scary entities because their designs, well, they aren't scary. And I think that might be the point. So I have no issue with any company making merch of stuff they own. A lot of the time it's necessary to generate more money so more of the things we like can actually have budgets and pay the employees working on that thing fairly. Wink wink, nudge nudge. My issue is not with Mob Entertainment's choice to monetize their game. It's more about how they went about doing it, and how I think it's very harmful for my ability to be scared by any of the creatures in the game. Immersion plays a massive part in horror. If a guy turns around and starts doing goofy faces in the middle of a tense scene, he acts like a cold bucket of water that totally takes me out of the world. I stop being able to take the world seriously and remind myself that I am just consuming a fictional piece of media. Poppy Playtime's menu is really good at setting a tone. The song, I don't know its name, fills me with nostalgia, like I'm visiting an old street I used to live on as a kid, but with a slight hint of fragility. Like the rose-tinted glasses I have for the place could shatter at any moment if I pay attention to my surroundings for a second. It's very good at setting up how I should feel about going back to Playtime Co. The effect is a lot harder to sell when there's a massive ad on the top right of my screen telling me to buy the new Huggy Wuggy plushie. They could just wait until after I beat the game or something. Imagine if other games started doing that. Oh, wait. The thing that I just hate the most about media is when the fourth wall is broken so hard, I can see the author or big executive instead of the story I'm supposed to believe. Normally, something like that doesn't happen this early. The very start of chapter 2, and I am already splashed with that bucket of cold ice. I played these games back to back too, so this completely killed my mood after finishing the demo. This is only the tip of the iceberg in terms of this issue as well. A major issue I had with chapter 3 is the introduction of the smiling critters. After the ad-rific start to chapter 2, the next one beginning with what is essentially an in-game ad for more toys, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It rubbed me so wrong that I couldn't enjoy the good effort that was put into the actual animation. I want to defend the scene by saying it's in-universe, which justifies its existence. Similarly to the Ralsei stuff in chapter 3 of Deltarune, actually. Those two examples seem similar at first glance, until I realized Ralsei is an established character in Deltarune. A little wink to the audience by the literal TV guy makes sense, and is actually kind of funny. You can sell me merch of Ralsei because I'm invested in his character already. Out of the 8 smiling critters introduced, the only one who really matters is Catnap. He is the newest wall in the player's way, he's actually built up and has a character. The other 7 critters have about as much agency in their story as a bent spoon. 0 dialogue outside of the ad, 0 time spent looking into their characters, and 7 new plushies added to the Poppy Playtime store. Oh wow! If you want an example of how to do this really well, look at Glitch Productions. They release merch based on the characters of the show who do a good job of getting you instantly invested. It's why I have a Pomni and Jax plushie behind me like their guardian angels. You know, Jax, you're like the brother I never had. And Pomni, you're cool too, I guess. I really hope the movie comes out in my country so I can watch it and not be spoiled on Twitter. Oh right, making a Poppy Playtime video. I like these characters, so I have no issue giving the company money so the skilled people working on the show are funded. When the characters get different outfits or styles of merch, I think it works because they're based on stuff that happens in the show, and never feel like they're trying to hit some merch quota. The pursuit of merch does not compromise the story being told. Episode 7 ends on a serious and heavy note, so we don't get a merch drop like normal because that would really mess with the tone. You can actually see my issue with merch superseding the media it's promoting with episode 8 of The Amazing Digital Circus. It's another very serious ending, but the credits drop a bunch of new merch of the characters being tortured, and that, it loses me. I'm taken out of that impactful moment. Oh, also, I thought the episode was really good, by the way.
And on top of it all, you just don't listen!
Looking back at the smiling critters, and my issue should be obvious. They have no reason to be in the game aside from wanting to sell merch. If you remove every other smiling critter aside from Catnap and replace them with generic toys, what changes? You can't do the same thing with the Digital Circus cast. Remove any of them and you genuinely lose something important. Someone is gonna bring up that one Dog Day scene and how he mattered, and I disagree. Having a survivor of Catnap's deterioration is a good choice. I like the idea of someone being legitimately traumatized by his actions over the years and barely living to tell the story. But hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. But why should I care about you? Chapter 3 has many moments dedicated to building up Catnap's menace. Dog Day kinda serves no purpose other than facilitating another chase sequence after a bunch of toys crawl inside him. I'm gonna be real, I found this scene so funny, and I didn't know if that means there's something wrong with me or not. I just can't take the toys doing something so graphic seriously, especially when I just met this guy. I think Dog Day could have worked a lot better if he replaced Poppy's role in chapter 3. Imagine if he acted as a guide for the player, traversing the orphanage he grew up in. He could recall good memories, peaceful times, and then the madness that took place after the Hour of Joy. Instead of generic PS4 game dialogue, we can hear Dog Day relive the best and worst moments of his life, which would give me a reason to care about the rest of the smiling critters. Sure, I didn't meet them, but through Dog Day, I could sympathize. Somehow, I find myself saying Dog Day was the biggest missed opportunity for Chapter 3, and that's because he's the best character. In theory, he contrasts Catnap in name, design, and function. Catnap feeds people horrible nightmares of their past when they sleep, but Dog Day inspires people to wish for a brighter tomorrow in the day. He is the smiling critter's bright, burning sun to Catnap's dull and oppressive moon. Poppy's dialogue about getting revenge on the prototype works 100 times better if it's Dog Day saying this, as he would have had a front row seat to the prototype's manipulation of one of his friends. He has a real reason to hate the prototype for taking away his family, which allows him and Catnap to contrast each other even further. One is a diehard follower of the prototype, who willingly gives his life to allow his master to continue his reign in this toy society. The other is a rebel fighting tooth and nail against that dictator, losing everything, but still dying fighting against the one who ruined his new life. The one who can only block up his son by using the corpses of Dog Day's former friends against him in his last moments. Now, with the ideas I came up with, when Dog Day gets possessed and begins chasing the player, you feel something. The tragedy of his journey that ended with his capture, but even more than that, the player has a personal reason to want to beat the crap out of Catnap now. But that's stupid. We can have Poppy and Ollie be your main lines of communication for the whole game instead. Focus, Em, there's puzzles to solve. The smiling critters already serve zero purpose story-wise. But what about the nightmare critters, which are supposed to be evil counterparts to the original group? They have no impact on the story or the chapter they're even introduced in, and once again exist only for the sake of making merch of them. This was so obviously the case that the store gives them all cutesy descriptions to make them more quirky, I guess? This toy eats people, by the way. Like, that's canon.
What is the charge? Eating a meal?
To play devil's advocate, I could say that the store is in-universe, so obviously the toys would have cute descriptions. Bisecting Dog Day, other horror stuff, and a bio about the prototype destroyed that argument for me. Imagine a bit of Withered Bonnie merch with the same kind of stuff. Bonnie is a bit of a shy guy who enjoys the outdoors and open spaces. He hates low-hanging door frames and the sound of chewing. He has a rosy smell that you'll definitely enjoy. These toy groups don't exist to actually expand the world or anything cool like that. They exist to appeal to as big as an audience as possible, so there's a higher chance they'll buy it. I know it might sound cynical to say something like that, but at every turn, profits outweigh anything else that might matter when trying to make a video game. The merch store is the most tame example of mob entertainment's core belief of make as much money by any means necessary. It might just be my own experience clouding my perspective, but I can't ignore the fact that almost everything I like in Poppy Playtime seems to be from another source. There's a really big difference between inspiration, letting someone write their own version of an idea, and lazily copying something, and Poppy Playtime... Oh god, where do I even begin? Poppy the character was clearly supposed to be Circus Baby from FNAF. Their backstories are practically the same, except Ludwig, I'm not gonna lie, I stuttered a lot saying this, was trying to bring back his already dead daughter, while Circus Baby was the result of a major mishap with William's daughter getting caught up in his schemes. In Chapter 2, they serve the exact same purpose. The off-putting but kind guide who is helping the player survive in the empty facility, before they turn on you and reveal their own motive. Going off this idea, it kinda makes sense why a non-existent force randomly removes Poppy from the equation at the end of Chapter 2, and also why she has such a drastic change in character. If the original ending went through, then the copying would have been a little blatant, no? Comparisons to FNAF were already gonna happen considering both games have similar premises, but straight up, it's the same character. The toys in Poppy Playtime are given SCP-like numbers to differentiate them. The intro for Chapter 3 is from fucking BioShock, apparently. I failed to really notice anything original in these first 3 chapters. Just very obvious inspiration from all over the place. A lot of this is hard to prove, and I could see myself arguing against any example I've brought up already. It's more that the similarities to other games and a lack of an original identity perfectly link into the main reason this section exists. It isn't about the people playing the game or coding it. It's the people right at the top who make a lot of the decisions for this game. The people who don't care about actually being creative. Mob Entertainment. These guys aren't just an indie studio who popped out of nowhere. They have channels who work under them. Channels that get millions of views on... Oh, Jesus Christ, no. Before releasing Poppy Playtime, Mob just made content form slop with famous indie game characters in Minecraft, in high school sometimes.
Why are you always the self-appointed dictator of the sleepover agenda? Well,
People talk about video essay content farms all the time, but this is that concept in its purest form. Just take a look at these videos. FNAF, Bendy and the Ink Machine, FNF, DDLC, in Minecraft, in Squid Game. The people behind this just grab the most popular things in a specific niche at the time and just slam them together without a care in the world. The only desire here is money. You can't convince me otherwise. It's why the channel constantly reposts content on its former sister channel. Why not just double dip, right? The kids watching us aren't going to pay attention or care. The CEO of Mob Entertainment used to run a CinemaSin style channel for animation. Oh wow. You'll notice a scary trend with all of these channels, and it's Zach Bellinger. From the very beginning, he has always been a lead head in lazily mass-producing content. Look, there's a video explaining why CinemaSins is a content farm and a blight on the internet. I'm not gonna go into why that sucks. But to see that this guy has seen another popular thing and made the most soulless version of it to reap all the rewards multiple times, you should kinda get why I'm a little concerned with Poppy Playtime's lack of identity. The second the game got popular, Mob Entertainment immediately hopped on the NFT train and it sold parts of the story's lore behind buying them. After backlash, they decided to donate all of the money they made to charity. But this entire situation should highlight my point. At every turn, the focus for money has trumped any other form of reasoning whenever Zach is in control of the wheel. That former sister company I talked about basically said the same thing when they parted ways with Mob Entertainment.
In our journey, there was a stint where we partnered with another entertainment company with the intent to use our collective resources to tell bigger and better stories than ever before.
Though the company we partnered with was growing very quickly, and in pursuit of growth, they decided animation would no longer be the main focus at the company. This focus on growth led to less time, less budget, and less creative freedom, eventually leading to Zam pumping out rushed productions focused primarily on making money. Or as the kids like to say, content farming.
Poppy Playtime would instantly join that Slopoverse once it got popular too, by the way. Staring at everything laid out like this, and I'm worried that Poppy Playtime was made expressly to make a new content farm. Mob Entertainment basically quit all of their channels after Poppy Playtime took off, and don't worry, I get why. Making a popular indie game to this company is the same thing as launching Animation Sins, or their cornball popular internet thing but in Minecraft and in another popular thing. It's just for money. It's why they release random bits of merch for characters who don't matter for the game. It's why they pander so heavily to YouTubers. They aren't trying to build up a franchise because their game is good. They want it to spread so badly that even if you haven't played the games, you know what Poppy Playtime is. You'll buy their merch and play their infinite spin-off games because they want an audience of people, children, who blindly consume whatever they put out, regardless of its quality. And it worked. Oh, and if you dare to criticize these games, then oh boy! Normally, with every other topic I've ever talked about, I usually avoid the fandom like the plague. I both love and hate fandom culture because on the one hand, wow, I get to talk about a thing I like with people who also like that thing. And on the other, Jesus Christ, people could just say anything on the internet and no one can stop them. It's not worth the headache. But a major issue I have with this game is inherently tied to its fan base. Remember that Markiplier clip from the start? Yeah, this resulted in a lot of people defending the chapter, attacking Markiplier and accusing him of being dishonest, way too harsh, and all of that. But then there was this image. This image represents everything wrong with a certain group of fans with this game. No criticism is valid. You can highlight a game-breaking issue that stops you from finishing it and people will still defend it. Oh, come on, Ty, you must be exaggerating. No, I'm serious. Chapter 4 of Poppy Playtime was the best time I had playing the game, and that was because of its amazing soundtrack. I'm not sure how they managed to get artists from all over the world and from so many different genres to collab, but it really increased my enjoyment. It actually made it hard to focus on the game. We ended up vibing to Hazbin Hotel Season 2 soundtrack.
Calling me a god, Bob. You gotta strike while the iron's hot. Leave the channel to me.
Joji's album.
Joji?
J-O-J-I? J-O-J-I?
What were you looking up?
I don't want to talk about it. Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
He works with the prototype.
Nobody's listening to any fucking thing you're saying, though.
Now this will be a beautiful death. I'm jumping out the window. The Kendrick and Drake beef.
Then tell him where you get your abs from. V12, it's a fast one. Bow, bow, bow.
This made the game fly by in ways I didn't even know were possible. And then the game stopped working.
Is it this?
See that one? Yeah.
So how the
that's
fuck?
broken.
What did you just say?
Make the pain real.
That's broken. It's meant to be touching the other side.
Oh, it's tied to my mouse!
I reset the game, reloaded at a previous save, and nothing would fix this issue. Considering I played this game over a year after this chapter came out, you'd assume this issue would be fixed. But no, I actually could not finish the chapter, and it wasn't like I tried to cause this. I just played the game. A bug this easy to encounter is unacceptable to still be in a game over a year later. Anyhow, I went to look for a solution and ran into this Steam thread where the OP was reasonably upset that his game just broke on him. Enter every single comment attacking the guy for being too demanding. I can't mince my words over how much this thread pissed me off the night Chapter 4 broke.
Hey, so demanding things like that. He paid for the game!
The game does not work. It has a hard lock that stops you from finishing the game. And you lot are still defending this? How dare a person who paid for this game be upset when it doesn't work? Oh, the humanity. This was a whole month after the game dropped. I played it a year later and it's still here. So whatever ended up happening in the rest of Chapter 4, I'll never know entirely off of principle. I realized that image isn't a rare case. It's like the fans of this game have sunk cost fallacy themselves into defending it no matter what. Even if the game does not work, people will defend it. This isn't even the only game-breaking glitch I ran into either. I was soft-locked at least once per chapter. Here's an iconic moment in Chapter 3. You need 2 batteries to open this door and continue the rest of this puzzle. I noticed that there was an extra battery at the start of the set piece, so I decided to grab it. In any other puzzle game, you would be rewarded for actually engaging with the game and realizing something like that. Do you want to know what happened to me instead? I went to grab the second battery and my hand phased through it. It doesn't just end there, as I was now unable to interact with any of the other batteries in this level. I was actively harmed for paying attention to this game. It just railroads you into doing stuff one way. These sections are clearly trying to be like Portal, but feels the need to hold your hand at every point, wagging its finger every time you do something even slightly differently. There is no individual expression available. And this isn't even the worst thing that can happen to batteries. At certain points, they can just crash your game, like what happened to me. That just crashed my game. Oh my fucking god, I hate this game. I got soft-locked by somehow phasing through an invisible wall during a dialogue scene. If I bothered enough to look through my 15 hours of footage, I could find 20 more examples of random glitches I ran into. But for whatever reason, I just really don't want to think about this game anymore. The funniest part about all of this is that I know that half of the people who defend this game as hard as they do haven't even played it. It's pretty obvious that this game was made to appeal to fans of streamers. Mob Entertainment is desperately trying to cultivate an audience of people who don't play their games, but blindly consume whatever slop they put out. New games, new toys, Poppy Playtime in Fortnite, consume. I was so confused at why specifically Chapter 4 and 5 got so much heat on them, when all of these games have the exact same issue. The main difference is at least you can beat those other chapters. Looking at one of the videos criticizing Chapter 5 also highlights another issue.
Except not only is this tape somewhat hidden, and you need to go out of your way to find it, but this extremely important and compelling information does not come up anywhere else. I didn't even know that this reveal happened until I was doing further research for this video, because the person I watched just didn't find the tape.
So the people glazing it and the people making criticisms on this thing just haven't played it. It's just a one big LARP, isn't it? A game by LARPers for LARPers. We can't even be bothered to play the games we're talking about anymore. Okay, sure. I've spoken about Chapter 5's effect on the fan base, but I've never really spoken about what happens in the chapter itself. And that was intentional. That's because this single chapter acts as a perfect microcosm of all of the fan base's biggest issues with the game, and finally answers the question that I asked at the start of this video. Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 released on the 16th of February 2026, and is currently the latest chapter to be released. There was a major shift internally with the original game director being replaced with somebody else. I didn't notice because all of the games looked so different from one another anyway, but from what I understand, the people who worked on Chapter 4 were using rough notes for the game's story and a similar thing for Chapter 5 until I'm getting ahead of myself. One thing that I believe was a major step up was the puzzles. The inconsistency issues have basically been squashed. There wasn't a moment where it felt like a game's rules were being broken by itself. Oh, that's all the good stuff? The puzzles being consistent is counterbalanced by the game railroading you into doing everything only one way. The amount of invisible walls this game has is actually appalling. Like here. Why would you put an invisible wall here? This looks like something I should be able to platform over to save time. Right? Well, no. This is one of the most egregious examples of how this game holds your hand at every turn. If I had to describe Poppy Playtime's puzzles, I would say they're like Toriel's from Undertale's. They're extremely babyfied, and if you do try and do something unique, she pulls up, grabs your hand, and brings you down her set path. In the final part of the game, like the final chase scene, there is a section where you're trying to get to the front of a train car. You can clearly see the path forward would be easiest, right? Invisible wall! You can just die! What a great game. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think an unexpected death is that fun. Like, I can't think of a single time I liked it in a game. Oh, right, the game is still extremely buggy. There's a section where you go to play red light, green light. If you walk off the path, you die. Here's a run where the trail just didn't appear. But no, look, you're right, I'm complaining too much. At least restarting the game fixed it this time. Could have been a lot worse. You enter a flashback where you play as Huggy Wuggy, and you literally don't need to complete it. I just messed around until it ended. In universe, this makes sense because it's a memory. The other two minigames require you to play them. Did they just forget? A lot of issues that I've brought up already come back like a mutated virus. The marketable plushies in this game isn't as hilarious as the smiling critters. It's just two dudes and I hate them. It's a mix of not being invested in the world because I find it unbelievable and maybe fatigue? I'm very tired, this is true. Every chapter feels the need to introduce a million different characters when I barely know or care about the other ones. I get that new characters allow for more world building and all, but this world is getting extremely bloated. Every new chapter, there's a new level of the factory with brand new villains who are tied to Playtime Co. Like, how many people had a hand in this mess? Why do all of them inevitably die by glazing the prototype? Am I allowed to say that I don't like the prototype either? Before we even talk about this dude's place in the story, I need to talk about this design. I think the devs ran into a massive issue where they spent 4 games hyping the prototype up without actually having a proper design in mind until the very last minute. And this doesn't always mean the design will be bad. The world from JoJo's was an example of a similar crunch. Their design gives you a lot to think about, and it's easily one of Araki's best. The reason the world is in scuba gear is because Dio is terrified of the water now after being submerged in it for 100 years. It's cool on a surface level. That's actually a really good joke considering I'm talking about the ocean. Not intentional. It's cool on a surface level and only becomes cooler because of the themes and such. The prototype is a cool design for something that isn't the prototype.
It's a cool jester thing with an okay bottom half. What about its design screams prototype? It was the beta test for Poppy's existence in a toy. It has been stealing parts of other toys to build itself up with, and the new design barely, if at all, utilizes these two major aspects of the prototype story. First one, being a beta test for Poppy is something that is not displayed anywhere on its design, other than the two both having red, I guess? Look at something like SA2. Obligatory Sonic reference, of course. The Bio-Lizard is the prototype of the ultimate life form. This one is based off of Perfect Chaos due to some lore in Sonic 3. Shadow, the perfected one, is based on Sonic with the same Sonic 3 lore. It's quite clever because Sonic ended up being You like Sonic, I don't have to do this. The prototype and Poppy have absolutely nothing in common, which feels like a total miss. The rule of cool is great and all, but I will, 9 times out of 10, like the design that rewards players for paying attention to the lore the devs swear is important. It was so important that they were willing to put the shit behind NFTs after all. This turns the prototype's origins into random flavor text instead of something that informs the audience on something about a character, especially one as important as him.
Then there's the second aspect of the prototype, it taking devices from other toys. It's just their hands. I know that it would be difficult to have a character using a bunch of different abilities from a bunch of different toys at once. I do really get it. That's why I wouldn't write about a character who was expected to do that.
The prototype has a voice box that lets it copy other characters. Why not throw in some of their heads that it chooses to speak through? I don't know. I feel like my requests are pretty reasonable considering this guy was hyped up for so long. Everyone would consistently talk about how terrifying this dude was. The toys he'd absorb were horrified to be a part of him. For years, this dude was just a fucking hand. And when it's finally time to reveal the evil mastermind who's been stealing toy parts, the one Poppy was based off, and he looks like none of those toys. He's just a clown. It really feels like they just made some other design and added the hands as a here nigga damn, so fans of the games could defend it, saying, see, the thing is there.
The prototype barely shows up in its own game, and once it does and speaks, things just fall off a cliff. The prototype wants to kill the player, but has actively been helping us beat their cronies. He lets the player live and plays with his food constantly, and I don't buy this. This friend has been very cautious up until now. I'd even say he was being paranoid of how much he was avoiding a direct confrontation with the player.
From what I understand, the prototype was using the player to beat the stronger toys in the factory, so he could absorb them. Ignoring the fact that he was seemingly already extremely powerful and scared of all the other toys, surely the prototype would want to kill me instantly. He tries once, is stopped, and the next time we see him, he decides to fuck around. Why? It's just hype moments and aura by this point. The prototype doesn't kill you because the writers don't want you to die. That's it. There's no deeper reasoning. And in classic Poppy Playtime fashion, the villain of the game is usurped by someone else and cut to black.
Well now, this is a rather interesting turn of events.
I think Markiplier's reaction to this is perfect here. After experiencing the greatest hits of Poppy Playtime's flaws, like its Sonic Generations or something, each aspect of this chapter acted as a perfect microcosm of issues I've had since the second chapter, and none of them have ever changed.
Poppy Playtime was supposed to be 5 chapters, but Mob has clearly realized how profitable these games are, and have changed their entire business model so they can pump these games and a million spin-offs out every single year. They are so addicted to the twist villain, please buy a overpriced game strategy that they undermined the main villain of their own fucking franchise. That is genuinely incredible. No sarcasm. I am in legitimate awe at how horrible of an ending this is. The people behind this game, and I'm not talking about the probably underpaid people who had to code and rush the game out of the door. I'm talking about the people who tried to sell NFTs for the game. The people who have proven time and time again that they only do this stuff for money. Those people behind the game have clearly shown they are fine to spin their wheels for as long as this franchise stays popular. They are fine to reuse the same ending 5 times because they know people will just buy their game and their merch regardless of the actual in-game quality. That blows. Indie games have the reputation for being literally the coolest thing ever. And yet you have these awful companies trying to insert themselves into the space and ruin it with their pumped out slop.
Poppy Playtime is not a good game. I played through all of the chapters when I could, and I had not had a mostly enjoyable time since the demo. I did not expect to ramble on this long about this game until I looked into the company who owns it. From that point, it just started spiraling more and more until I ended up here. To be honest, I'm mostly just sad over a lot of probably very talented people being smothered under epic content farm CEO dude.
I don't have a wider message here, so let's pretend I'd said something super inspirational at the end. In fact, you should comment about the super epic inspirational thing that I just said because I am so cool. Best ideas will get hearted by me. Friends, that's the end of the video. I am not out of the horror hellhole just yet, but here's for hoping for more stuff that isn't directly tied to internet horror, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little burnt out.
I'm gonna keep pushing through until summer though, because I have a bunch of ideas and I need to get them out of my head or it'll just explode. Is that healthy? No, but it's hype moments in aura, so we're gonna do it anyway. I want to give a huge shout out to the people with almost as much aura as me. My Patreon and channel members. Their support does do wonders for me, to be entirely honest. They're cool, everyone who's made it this far is cool, I'm not cool. You lot have a good day. See ya, lads.